So in my last video, I covered all the things that I'm planning to do to my computer this year, and the first thing I'll start with is replacing that W backplane. This is the card I showed you some photos of, and effectively it's just two cards stacked together. Now the reason for this is actually that the W backplane is quite complicated because you've got three connectors that are the same, the W1 type connectors, and then two connectors that are slightly different to the W2 connectors. And the reason for this is that there's just so many connectors that these type of cards require, and many things like the sequencer and the controller and so on, that you just need all these type of connectors. Now the other cards, or rather the other backplanes, aren't quite as difficult. They just all have the exact same connections, so the lines are very simple. But the problem I've got here is that these ones need connecting together, and these ones need connecting together. And so the way I've done that is just with a nice simple double-sided card. So far so good, exactly the same as you've seen on the Y backplane where I created one myself. Here's a photo of that. But for this I wanted to really get rid of all the mess of wires. So currently the back of the computer looks like this. And really that's just getting, well, it doesn't look very nice, but also it's very difficult if you want to do any maintenance in the back or if you need to adjust anything. So the idea with this is then basically, well, why not represent those cables as a PCB? Because I always know exactly what connectors this card needs. So it makes sense that I can just sort of make it permanent. Now that is a nice thing with with using the ribbon cables, is you can change things around and move things, but you know, this card's always going to need these connections now. I'm happy to commit to that. So this is a nice way of representing it. Now you could kind of do, I suppose, a 4-layer board, although typically the two inner layers of a 4-layer board will be the positive and negative or ground supply. But also a 4-layer board is quite expensive actually. It works out cheaper for me to do two of these separate cards and do this and just basically stack them together. So effectively the main part of the card is concerned with passing all the signals between all the connectors and basically getting it out to the riser connectors at the sides here. So the other backplanes will work exactly the same, but they'll have exactly the same riser connectors here and here on both sides. That then passes up to here, so we've got Control Z, Y and X coming up here, and the pulse bus, the operation bus and the CI bus coming up here. And the Control Z bus basically will pass over here, so there's very difficult to see here, but there's a diagonal line of wires. Because on the flip side of this top card are the cables, sorry, the tracks, even the tracks going through to this through to this connector here. So Z we're going to pass straight up and down through the card because the Z bay below wants the Control Z line. I'm going to pass these around on 40 pin connectors as well, so then we can just have one nice single ribbon, and that single ribbon will actually carry the Control Z, the OP bus, and additionally here I've got room to pass the results of the B register through, which would be quite nice for displaying the value of that. So that's just another option again, because B and C are permanently connected to the LU. It just gives me the option of always taking that value off, so that'll be useful for displays. Not using the computer at the moment, but eventually will. I've also got the control and instruction bus, so that'll be going downwards from here, down into the Z bay. And the operation bus will be going up into the top of the computer, because that's the only thing that actually uses it. Note here that actually the pulse bus doesn't actually go anywhere. I've kind of just put this connector on just to give it some stability and just so it's holding together nicer. So that's kind of the design here. Power wise, so I've got a new type of connector here that is probably more suited to doing power. Again, it's rated about the same as what these connectors are here. But this one just means then you can't accidentally put it in the wrong way, which is something you can do with the ones currently. So what I'll do is I'll just wire that out, that'll plug in there, and then you probably can't see it that well on here, but there's a 12-volt rail here at the bottom, and then a ground plane along the rest of it. That's also passed up to this card as well, so there's a ground plane on the whole of this card as well, just to just to give it a ground. Right, what else to mention on this? Oh yes, also yes, the Control Y and Control X will go over to the left, and that will be over to the X bay. So, right, let's get that old backplane out of the computer, and then we can swap over to this. Right, let's cut for that. Okay, right, so first job is taking out the existing cards. So I'm going to use my my trusty levers here, also known as an Allen key. Let's Gently coax those out, like so. Those are probably the easier ones to take out, and these ones just need something threading through the bottom and top holes, like so. I think eventually I will look at putting a card puller on these, but for the moment that'll do. And go back on there where it belongs. Cool, right, let's pop round to the back. So here we are at the back, and yeah, I'm going to have to start pulling quite a few of the cables out here now to replace this W backplane. Because you can see here a lot of the buses just either pass through, in the case of the Z bus here, or actually do go into this card. But either way, there's a lot of wiring here. And this is kind of the reason why I wanted to replace these backplanes. So just to neaten it up a little bit and just to make it a little bit easier to get in there and do any maintenance necessary. Although hopefully after I put this card in, this shouldn't need much attention after that. Alright, so let's get ripping these cables out and yeah, time lapse, off we go. So just in case you've not seen these before, these are the bolts that fit into the aluminium profile around the edge, and basically like a little sled like this. What they can do then is they'll actually fit into the profile. Let's see if I can do this for you. Fit in the profile like this, and then when you tighten them up, they'll turn and then grip onto the profile from the inside. So it's quite a nice secure connection. But as you saw then when taking them out, it's really easy to get them back out again as well. As long as you turn them the right way, they generally go okay. Right, so got a lot of the cabling out now, so now I'm just going to carry on taking the backplane out. So got the Z, the Y and the X controls coming into the right hand side here. And this has always been a really tricky fit on these because you've got to sort of try and reach round and get it against the side panel here. But I'm hoping this with the new one is there'll be a bit more room to manoeuvre and be able to get cables in. And plus everything connects on from the back this time rather than connecting from the side, so that should make it a lot easier as well. So again, usual thing, once you've had a sort of second or third revision of these, you've sort of learned a few tips and tricks to make it easier. So right, let's carry on. And there we have it. That's the old W backplane out of the computer. And what we'll do now is we'll take that up to the work desk where I can basically take these rails off here and put them onto the new card. Right, let's cut to that. Right, so we're back at the bench again, and here's the new backplane that we've got, and here's the one we've just taken out. So there we go. You can see basically just how much this simplifies it. So this one's absolutely fine. I mean, on the front it looks pretty much the same. Things to note differently is that this one passes its signals through on the left and right. That can make it confusing as well because although, and I'm going to have to try and remember this one now, although this side I think comes out in the same pin order as these, this one effectively has it reversed. So the top row switches with the bottom row and vice versa. And what that's meant in the computer is you often have to keep switching cables around or have to do a lot of wiring out. So I'm hoping actually by using this design that will help save on a lot of that. Plus, because these are all hardwired anyway, it doesn't really matter what these two cards do between themselves. It'll all matter about what comes out on these pins here. And these pins actually are now honouring this key here. So pin 1 on here, which will be the one down in this corner here, will be the same as pin 1 here. So it just means there's some consistency in the way these are put together. And again, it's often the thing I get confused most about when working on these, but yeah, we'll work it out. So what I need to do now is I need to transfer these guide rails here. So I'm going to transfer these off of this card and onto this card. These should all line up. So basically I should be able to just unscrew these posts, put them into here and screw them onto here by passing them through these holes here. For some reason that was missing one. Oh, I remember why. I think that one actually was slightly off centre. So I'll probably have to do the same on this because I've forgotten that was off centre. So I'll just have to have this just resting on the back of this. There is a sort of ring here just to give it a grounding on there as well. Actually, sorry, no, strike that. There is actually a ring on here, but it's not connected to anything, which is as it should be because the chassis isn't connected to anything other than the true earth that comes in on the power supply. Being as it's metal case, just want to have that there for safety. Right, okay, let's go into a time lapse rather than me jabbering away, and I'll transfer this over to here. Right, just before we move on, just so I'll quickly show you these. If you've not seen these before, these are simply a piece of aluminium profile again, so just a U-channel shape. I don't know why that's coming over the camera. Yeah, I think you can see that. And yeah, basically these just simply PCB standoffs, I suppose you call them, and they just have a thread at the end, simple, then a bolt on the end, and that just then basically gives something they can push against. And the idea then is when you're pushing against the cards, it can push against these and push against the bar, and it just transfers all that pressure over. And the idea why these are equally spaced as well is just so it's spreading the pressure across them, because what you don't want to do is sort of bend the PCB or introduce any fractures into it. This one is all over the place and quite wobbly, and actually I think I can see now on this one it was that I think the hole was a bit too low down, so it was fouling that down there. Might see if I can quickly fix that again. I think it's just that the hole's too far down, so I don't think there's much I can do about that, but I'll have a quick look, see if I can bend them back in shape. These are very, very sturdy actually. They don't give at all, so we'll have a look at that. Just before I get this out of the way then, so for the last time, this is basically the old card. So you can see quite a mess, quite a lot going over, and the problem with these connectors actually wasn't so much on the ends, but if I pop one of these off, I basically use these connectors where it's a header strip that has really long legs on, so the idea is you can stack them together. Now they should work okay with other ones, so they're designed to stack into each other, but on here I was finding sometimes we're making poor contacts, so you put them on and they generally worked, but some were a bit loose, or if you adjusted them they'd be fine, and again just not ideal, and that's a good thing about this new backplane. It's all on the PCB, so you know, there should be no problems whatsoever. I mean, I say that, we'll soon find out when we put it together, because I haven't tested this yet. Given it's so simple, it should just work, but I may well put it in and find there's a problem on one of these lines. The test will be basically to make sure all the cards can talk to each other at least, and then can it talk to the rest of the computer, and that's where I'll start wiring these bits out one bit at a time, just to make sure everything's working. So it'll be a bit tedious, but yeah, we'll certainly get there. Right, I'm going to put that down because that'll no doubt fall down. I think what I'll also do as well is I'll put some washers between this and the back of here as well, just so if these are slightly offline, it's not going to scrape anything. Right, okay, so bye-bye for this one. This can go to the pile of junk at the back here, which I'm gradually collecting. So there we go, I can go on there. I'll leave my little QR code there for you if you fancy scanning that. I bet you can guess where it goes to. Right, okay, let's try and put these onto this new bond then. Okay, so good idea, bad execution. So I'll share this one rather than just stopping the camera and going away to cry in a corner. You can probably see what's gone wrong here, which is that I don't know how I've managed to miss this, but of course the bars extend all the way over to the edges so that they can get into the sides of the case. But of course that then means that this gets covered up completely, which of course means that I'm not going to be able to slide anything into it. So I'm going to have another bit of a think about that one. Now the reason why these bars are here, and it's not so much a problem for the other ones because they can go further out to the edges, is it's to basically get round these parts here. Now normally these would sit exactly between the individual connectors. And even then I think it is going to sort of get in the way of this connector. I was hoping there might be a bit more headroom on that, but there isn't. And this is the usual thing, say again, not measuring. This one also, I'll definitely have to redo this one as well because this one is just too imprecise to fit in properly. So these ones are okay, but the left one is just the hole's just completely in the wrong place. So I think what I'll have to do is I'll have to remake these bars anyway, which is fine actually because originally these are all over the place. I'll still get to grips with how these work. So I suppose now I'll just kind of think about how I'm going to do this. Given I'm thinking of turning the case on its side, there is actually an option of possibly doubling this up. So I could have a rail here first of all to bring it in and cut that off at the edges here, and then have another rail then that goes over here that sort of meets up with it. And what that'll give me then is, at the moment, let me just go and get them. So at the moment these go like this, over to the edge, and basically connect on like that. But what I could do is, if I could have a bar running like that, I could have it then connect that from the bottom, like that. So that's another option. Or I could connect this underneath, so there is enough room to go underneath on this, like so. So that would actually fit. And then rather than connecting like that, I could connect them this way around like that, which would actually make it a little bit easier to get into screws now. The problem is then it'll be quite hard to get these screws tied in, so that's something else I need to think about. Typically what I've done with these is I've normally pushed the card forwards, got this into position, and then just brought these up to meet one another. So that is another way I could do it. So I might ponder that as well. There's enough room on there to make that work. Yeah, it might be a better way of doing this. Or I could just redesign these completely. What other options we've got here. Alright, either way, I need to go away and have a think about this. So yeah, when you join me again, it certainly won't be today, it'll be another day. Yeah, I'll have had a thought about how to do this. See you then.